Welcome to our channel. Today we are talking about one of the most important battles of the Angola War, the Battle of Quifandongo. The Battle of Quifandongo was fought on November 10, 1975, just one day before Angola declared its independence from Portugal. By that moment, the MPLA, led by Agostinho Neto, had secured control of Luanda, the capital. But rival factions, the FNLA and UNITA, were still fighting to seize their own foothold in the city before independence could be proclaimed. The FNLA, under the command of Holden Roberto, gathered a diverse force that included 1,000 guerrilla fighters, 2 battalions from the Zairian army, and 50 South African troops. Roberto, determined to push forward, decided to launch an attack on Luanda just before the historic declaration of independence. The city's defenses were concentrated around Quifandongo, where the MPLA and its Cuban allies prepared to meet the advancing FNLA with overwhelming force. Quifandongo had a strategic location. Positioned on hills that overlooked the northern approaches to Luanda, Quifandongo dominated the main routes leading to the city. To the west, the Atlantic Ocean provided a natural barrier, while to the east, the Panguila Lagoon, swampy and treacherous, further hindered movement. This left the main road from Morro do Cal as the only viable route of attack. However, this approach meant placing any advancing force directly under the guns of the Quifandongo defenses while marching across open ground for several miles. To strengthen Quifandongo's position, Cuban engineers had constructed extensive underground bunkers, which proved crucial in shielding their soldiers from the intense bombardment that would have preceded the FNLA assault. An assault was commanded for November 10, and at Roberto's request, the SADF supplied 3 140mm howitzers to back the attack. In addition, a preliminary airstrike was planned to be carried out by Canberra bombers. The night of November 9-10, the South African howitzers relentlessly shelled Quifandongo, and just before 6 a.m., 3 Canberra bombers, departing from Rundu in Namibia, carried out a bombing raid on Quifandongo as originally planned. Additionally, 2 Zairian 130mm artillery pieces were brought into action. The airstrike hit its mark, and artillery fire rained down on MPLA positions overnight. But the FNLA's ground assault would soon be swallowed by disaster. The defenders held their fire until the attacking force emerged into the small corridor between the coast and the lagoon. A dozen armored cars led the attack, followed on foot by the bulk of the troops who dismounted from trucks at an abandoned chicken farm a couple of miles south of Morro do Cal. The column was allowed to advance several hundred yards before machine gun fire from its leading armored car hit the parapet of an FAPLA gun emplacement, unleashing a devastating response. The FNLA force encountered a deadly trap. Cuban and MPLA defenders, waiting in ambush, unleashed a devastating bombardment. When FNLA reinforcements attempted to regroup at the chicken farm, the Cubans brought their BM-21 into action. The salvos from the Cuba rocket launchers decimate the troops at the chicken farm, and then the Cubans turned its fire on the main force, firing wave after wave of rockets. As Cuban forces surged forward, FNLA troops found themselves surrounded and exposed. RPG-7 rockets and anti-aircraft fire raked through their lines, slaughtering hundreds. The South African and Zairian artillery, unable to match the range and firepower of the Cuban rockets, was helpless to stop the carnage. At the end of the day, the FNLA was in full retreat, and the battle was lost. The aftermath of the battle was devastating. The FNLA, now in ruins, would never recover from the crushing blow it had suffered. For the MPLA and its Cuban allies, Quifandongo was a victory that ensured their dominance in the newly independent Angola and set the stage for years of brutal civil conflict. Thanks for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel to know more about the Angola War.